And so anyhow, so we're talking about story building and how to do it. And I just ordered some books on TED Talks and storytelling from Ted. Chris, the guy who started the TED Talk stuff. I'm going to read up on that. I also ordered another book because that's one of the things too, Gilbert, that I need to get much better at. And what I shared with you earlier was this hero's journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the concept behind that is, you think of the one that comes to my mind is Neo in the Matrix, right? I don't know if you ever seen the
Right.
Matrix.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
mean, that I think there's not a better movie, and it's probably one of the reasons why it was such a blockbuster, because it was a hero's journey. Top Gun is another example of the hero's journey, right? The in the example that I gave you, they talk about like Luke Skywalker, right? We just had the May the Fourth be with you, but
Right.
those are examples of the hero's journey, right? So I'm going to call this up. We're going to kind of talk about it together. There it goes. Oh, this is a funny one. When someone asks me what's working in sales is like, we'll start out with a little humor first.
Oh.
All right. There we go. All right, there you have it. That's what's like working in sales.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, so let me bring, where'd it go? Shoot, I had it. It's not, oh, wait, there it is. Okay, so let me go back into this. This is for my one of my mentors is Nirka. That's a lot of based on my book, comes from her teachings. And
Okay.
she led me into the world of NLP. She has what she calls elevated NLP. So NLP is a net neurolinguistics programming. It has to do with communication, right? And she's taken that and elevated it to a higher level. I just did a class with her about a week ago or so, and she had a lady on there that did all of Tony's promotional in the very beginning. So she knew Nirka back when she was 19, 20 years old. She broke all the sales records for Tony, getting people to his events. I'd still hold to this day, 30 years plus later. And it's
Uh-huh.
because, and that's before internet or anything else. It's all on the phone and driving and making the sales that way. She's just really, really good at what she does. So this is an ebook that she had put out, and it's about presenting on stage. But we can use a lot of this in just developing our own individual stories on how to become better storytellers. And the
Okay.
number one thing that she's going to really harp on in here is going to be about your why. Why are you telling your story? What are you looking for your audience to be able to get out of it? I'm getting into this where we get into the hero's journey here. There, this, I think this is going to start it, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, why are you telling your story? So I'm going to bring this back. And so what I would like you to do, start with a clean sheet of paper, because I know you've been working on your story. So this is great. And start with a clean sheet of paper and start writing down some reasons why you feel people could benefit from your story.
Okay.
All right. And I
Okay.
know I'm just going to keep talking while you're doing that. I know you've got a lot of reasons why, but this is true for anybody that may be listening to this recording as well. Why is your story important? I remember back when I was keep writing. I
Oh,
remember
oh, okay.
you keep writing. You should be able to fill up a piece of paper with all the different reasons why. Why is your story important? Without this why, without knowing, this is basically going to be your roadmap into getting into your story and conveying your story. I remember when I was taking some book writing classes before I wrote my book, and it was a common theme was this same thing. Why are you writing this book? What do everybody's got an amazing story, but what's going to make a person want to read your story? What's going to make a person, and I know you're talking, Gilbert, about writing a book about your story, about your life. And it's an amazing, amazing journey that I think other people will be able to relate to, even though you have had several brain injuries or a couple brain injuries and other challenges, health challenges along the way. There's aspects of that story that people can relate to. They've fallen on hard times and, they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And yet somebody like yourself who was in that position, like just last November, and now all of a sudden the whole new world has opened up for you. So people can relate to that aspect of your story, even if they haven't had the exact same instances happen in their life. And that's what you want to start bringing out when you're telling your story. You want to be able to make it relatable, that people are going to go, wow, I can resonate with Gilbert's story. All right. So those are all wrapped up into those reasons why. Everybody's got a magnificent story, but there's a few books that really resonate, and that all of them talked about on the same subject, right? Maybe it's on parenting, maybe it's on overcoming depression or whatever it is. But what's going to make your book or your story compelling? And this is important when we're sharing our testimonials or our story with others' testimonials, other people's stories, as sharing it as a testimony. How do you put that into a story? Because storytelling really is how you're going to build this business. We can get easily into the facts and figures, but that's going to bore people, right? They want something that's going to move them emotional. I know Jeff Brown, he's got his story down really well because I heard it. He shared it with Brad Hager, and I've heard him share it with somebody else. He's got his story nailed, and maybe we should have him. I should do a little interview with him and have him share his story and how he crafts his story, because it's very powerful and he does a very good job with that. And that's what we all want to have, right?
Right.
When I was taking this class, and I don't know what I did with my notes from it, she was asking us basically this question, and oh man, I think I got it upstairs. I took it out of this book, and I wrote down, I don't know, 35 different reasons or so why my story is important. And I started crafting my story in bullet points, and I was using the story of network marketing. So for instance, I was first introduced, just very briefly from what I remember, I wish I had my notes here, I didn't think of it. 35 years ago, I was introduced to network marketing. It's the first time I ever saw leverage, right? How you can go out and create massive wealth for yourself, not just based on your own efforts. I never knew that existed. I grew up in a family where my dad was a professional, right? He was an executive with Schwinn Bicycles. Go ahead.
Your dad day today. My heart goes out to you for that.
Oh, thank you, Gilbert. I appreciate that.
You just triggered that memory. I wanted to tell you about it.
So you read something and you remembered it. So I appreciate that very much. Yeah, it was 4 years ago today. He died. My dad, he loved alcohol. And at his funeral, one of the guys were telling this story. You got your water bottle on the bicycle, and you're drinking your water as you're racing in that. And they said my dad oftentimes had wine in his water bottle. Yeah, but my sister and I, we joke because I flew out there on the 4th, but he actually passed on the 5th, shortly after midnight. And my wife, my sister and I, we joked that he held on so he can make it to Cinco de Mayo so he can have his margarita heaven.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's the way my dad would have loved to have gone out. So he did. So that was great. Yeah, but thank you for that. So and 35 years ago or whatever it was, over 20 years ago, I was about 35, 37 or so when I was introduced to network marketing. And I had a college degree, I had a master's degree. You know, I was worldly. I'd lived outside the US for over 8 years. I knew a lot of people, but nobody had ever showed that to me. And I seized leverage for the first time. And man, I am fired up. I am excited. I can't sleep. I didn't sleep for the first week because I finally saw an avenue to be able to retire early, to be able to retire with enough money rolling in on a monthly basis that I never had money concerns again. And I got started, and guess what? It didn't work. It took me 6 months to create that first team bonus check. 6 months. And I tell you what, I poured my heart and soul into it. So when people tell me, oh man, yeah, I got started in this thing, I only made $5 my first week, I'm like, congratulations, that's huge, because it took me 6 months, right? So and so that's how, when we were having this course last week, I started writing this out in just bullet points. And I was able to build my whole story around that and make it in a way that you bring in all these other aspects to it, right? So what's my why in sharing that? I know you also do is a quick Google search. How many people are in debt in the United States right now? There's a serious why they need this business to help them get out of debt, right? So that might be one of my whys for sharing this story, because what you want to do in the hero's journey is you're transferring your story into why it's important for them emotionally. And if you don't make that connection, there's no rapport. And without the rapport, there's no trust, and you're not going to make the sale. All right. That's pretty much the bottom line of it. Let me go back to the shared screen. How you doing on your list?
I'm going down.
All right.
It's evolving as I go down because the whys turn from statements. Now I'm doing one-line bullet points by adding different reasons why.
Yes.
Like I started telling the story. Oh, that's my son.
Speaking of Top Gun. I love it. Right on cue.
What can I say? Yes, sir.
Cue, right? We've all heard the hero's journey, the epic movie, the classic book, the memorable presentation. There you go.
Hey, God, you got to keep focused, right?
That's right.
Flying is where I'm going.
Yeah. So like if you take what I started to share in my story and it didn't work, and then I stop it right there, and now I start transferring this into the teaching, and I say, how about for you? Have you ever thought about retiring early, being able to retire with more choices, da, 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 da. And I go in a different direction because now I'm going to relate it to them. What I've just done is created an open loop. It means I'm going to come back to that original story, but I'm going to start building that rapport with the audience and drive in more of why this is important to them. You know, like for you, for instance, you know, in November, when you smashed your TV because out of frustration, right? Mm-hmm. That could be a point of opening the story, and then you're going to go back and finish that story. All right. What led you to that frustration, right? You open it up with smashing the TV, and people are going to go, wow. Because why? Because a lot of people have probably felt a moment of frustration, whether it's watching a football game and their team lost or something else. They can visualize smashing their TV. And probably a lot of people have one or two, maybe some people have, right? So you're making that connection. That's something that's relatable with the rest of the audience.
Okay.
And then you go back, well, let me tell you my story, right? I grew up, da, 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 da. And then you're building up to the point of smashing the TV. It's like that foreshadowing. You see that in movies all the time. They start out in the middle of the story, and then they flash back, build up to that point, and then they move forward after that point, right? That's part of a hero's journey story. So let me just kind of show you what this looks like. Let me turn off my video here. The hero journey framework, the call to adventure, the supernatural aid, the threshold guardians, right? Beginning of the transformation. So pick your favorite movie and, you know, let's just, let's use, I'll use Maverick. I'll use Top Gun because it's obviously something I can relate to. You got the guy, the opening frame to Top Gun. If you've never seen the movie, I highly recommend it. He's out there. They just have a huge air war victory, right? And then Maverick buzzes the tower and gets in trouble, gets hauled into the commander's office, and the commander's pissed off and yelling at him, and basically would love to throw him off the ship. But instead, here's the threshold. Instead, he gets sent off to his dream location to be able to go to Top Gun school. And he goes to Top Gun, and he's going to meet his mentor, the commander of the Top Gun school there, right? And he's going to have the helpers. He's going to have his teammates. And along the way, he's met with all kinds of challenges and temptations. And then the abyss. His Rio, his backseater, dies because what he feels he's screwed up. And they have to eject. And in the process of the ejection, his best friend, the guy that he's gone through all these battles with, dies. And then he's got to work on his own transformation. He's got to, oh God, I got chills just thinking about it. He's got to work on his own transformation and how to rebuild himself after this traumatic experience. And so he starts going through a new transformation. And then they're out on the Adriatic with his classmates from Top Gun school on this really top, mission, if you will. And he's got to seek atonement, right? And like, man, what am I going to do? How can I can't go on. I can't go on. And he finds himself, he gets into the battle and he succeeds and he returns. And at the end of the movie, he takes Goose's, his Rio's dog tags, and he throws them into the ocean. He's rebirthed, right? So that's kind of the steps of the hero's journey. Pick your favorite movie, Matrix, whatever it might be, Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. You'll be able to build that picture in there. And so when you're crafting a powerful story, that's kind of the cycle you want to kind of use in order to make it an impactful story that people can relate to, and they're all cheering for you. They want to see you succeed by the end of it. Right?
Right.
Perfect. Okay, let me go back. Any questions on that?
I got the flow.
All right, perfect.
I can see the flow.
So it's a proven DNA for the psyche. It speaks to our soul. It calls us to action and inspires us to embark on a grand adventure. Think of Luke Skywalker, Indiana Jones, Kung Fu Panda. If you've ever seen that movie, oh my God, it's great.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the key is to deliver your story in a way where your audience sees themselves as the hero, not you. Okay. And that's the reason why open loops works so well as well. Even though Top Gun isn't built as an open loop, it does work as well. You and your audience will embark on an epic journey together to transform your dreams into reality. Before you go to the next step, craft a succinct, compelling story that positions you as the guide and inspires your audience to join you on a wonderful journey. All right. And this is just going to go on. There's a lot of great stuff in here. The opening is always the most important. And again, this is geared more towards talking on a stage, but you can wear it. I mean, you can use this for everything. Go ahead, Gilbert.
Okay, what was the name of this book again?
That I'm referencing right here?
Yes.
Oh, this is a proprietary ebook.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really not probably supposed to do this, but I'm giving her credit.
I got you.
This is all Nirka's information.
I have a lot of those.
There you go. No matter, this is really important. No matter how amazing your product or service is, there is one skill that we all must master if we're going to make the impact and achieve the success we desire and deserve. Who knows what that skill is? All right. So this is opening up, to get people's attention, if you will. All right. And also starting to develop the why. In my Sunday webinars, for instance, I say, what do you believe will be your biggest health challenge as you age? Right? I mean, that's a powerful question because we're all getting older and we all know about people getting cancer. We all know about people getting dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things. These diseases are becoming more and more popular. So in that Sunday night webinar, I start out, what do you believe will be your biggest health challenge as you age? I'm trying to pull the audience in right from the get-go. So for you in developing your story, knowing where you're going to go with your story, how can you grab the people's attention right off the bat? You know, and it could be with a question, something like, have you ever felt yourself lost? Have you ever felt yourself, you know, not knowing, being so frustrated, you didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring? Something along those lines would be a compelling opening because everybody can relate to that, right? We've all been there,
Right.
not at the
Right.
extreme level maybe as you have, but we can relate to that. And now we start thinking about it from our own perspective. That's the whole goal that you want to do, to grab somebody when you're developing the story. And right now we're primarily, we're not talking about your book necessarily, but we're talking about your testimony, but you can use this for anything, right?
Right.
And we all agree that illnesses and diseases do increase as we age. That's an embedded command. All right. I'm getting, when I'm asking all these questions and as I'm stating these things, what I'm getting from the audience is yeses. And I want to get as many yeses as I can before I start getting into the actual presentation. So you want to collect yeses, right? And the question I just gave you is going to collect a yes, because everybody's felt frustrated. I mean, that's kind of a silly question, but when you do it with the right emotional, you'll get an impact. I mean, who do you know right now that is not living their best life? I mean, everybody knows somebody that's got cancer, it seems like these days. Everybody knows somebody that's got Alzheimer's. Everybody knows somebody that's probably got a diabetes or some other kind of health challenge going on. I mean, who do you know who's now living a different life than when they were younger? We all are, right? It's kind of going to get a yes. And the rates of the most serious health challenges seem to be on the rise, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
What you most likely are also aware of is that new science is constantly emerging. New discoveries, understandings, technologies that are revolutionary is how we address this aging challenge. So anyhow, I'm going on and getting all these yeses. So when you're giving a testimony, the powerful aspects of the testimony is what was before and what's after, right? And what happened during. So those three aspects. So I throw in a fourth one. What was before? How did I come across Sealy by Design? Because I want to make it relatable, right? Hey, a friend of mine called me. That's going to the person. Wow, somebody cared enough to call you, right? So there's building more trust. It's bridging the gap that you're relatable. Hey, you know, before Sealy, I was frustrated. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. That's just my expression, whatever it is for you. I was frustrated. In fact, I even smashed my TV because I didn't know where I was going to turn to next. And then a dear friend of mine gave me a call. And I cannot thank him enough. He changed my life with that phone call. He cared enough to reach out to me, not knowing how bad I was. But he had enough care and concern for me. And even putting your hand on your heart when you're saying that part is important. Eye contact is vitally important when you're saying this part. You can keep writing, but eye contact is vitally important when you're sharing your testimony. If we're doing it on Zoom, you want to be looking right at that camera. You don't want to have your video off to the side and getting distracted like I often do. You want to be looking straight at that camera when you're giving your testimony. That eye contact is really important because we're not in person and you're bridging the gap with the rapport through your eye contact. And he cared enough to reach out to me and share what he had found. And I praise the Lord every day that he did, because it literally changed my life. So you're telling what happened before, how you came about Sealy by Design, And then what? Maybe start sharing a little bit what you did. So as soon as it arrived on my doorstep, I couldn't wait to open up that bottle and start on this protocol or whatever, this regiment. And again, this is what happened. And then you start giving the details of what happened point by point by point. On the first day, I noticed this. Second day, 5 days, by a week, by 2 weeks, by a month. Now it's 6 months later, whatever. This is what I'm feeling. Because the story will evolve, right? As you go on and more. But it is important to write down these different steps also so that you remember your story, so that as it does evolve down the years, you don't forget about this part, right? So, but that's how you do it. It's actually very simple, and you've got a very powerful story, right? So what you want to do is craft this, and then you're going to be able to share, and then, what's different now and blah, 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 blah. So, you can weave this into the business. You can weave it just around the product. You can have this as a 30-second elevator pitch. You can have it as a 5-minute story, 2-minute story, 5-minute story, 10-minute story. Depends on your audience, depends on how much time you have. If you're on waiting in line at the grocery store, you're not going to get into a 5-10 minute dissertation. So you want to have various ways of sharing your story that still have all those elements in it. The hero's journey is going to be told in a movie preview, not in the movie, right? So,
Okay.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again, you got to be able to condense it down. You want to write out this whole story, but then be able to condense it down to 30 seconds.
I understand.
Just that you're hitting the highlights. I was super frustrated. Maybe you have been here right now. I'm seeing you right now, or you're talking with somebody and you see them, they're all frustrated. Hey, you know what? I know exactly how you feel. I used to feel the same way. Let me tell you, I was so frustrated. I smashed my big screen TV. I was lost. I didn't know where to turn to. And a friend of mine gave me a call. Oh my God, I'm so glad he did. It changed my life. I got this product. I started taking it. Within days, my life changed. I just did your story in 20 seconds, 15 seconds. Now, if it's going to be, like on a Thursday night product call, you got 2 minutes, 3 minutes to be able to share that same story. So you can get into a little bit more details. You can get into a little bit more emotion. Now you're doing a Facebook Live and you got 5-10 minutes to be able to share your story. You can get even into more emotions. You can get into more details of the story and be able to start relating that story to the other person, start asking more questions of that, rhetorical questions, just asking them out loud. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever been there? I know I was. And I'm so glad that friend of mine gave me that call. That is a very important part of the story when you're sharing the testimony, because you're making it relatable, especially if a person gets started. Now they know that it's okay for them to give somebody else a call, right?
Yes.
So that's how you build the story. And then the close, you got to have a call to action. At the end of the story, there's a call to action. So in the 30-second one, I'm so glad he gave me the call, because let me tell you, as soon as that product arrived at the doorstep, I started taking it. And within 2 weeks, oh my gosh, my life was completely opened. What would it do for you? How would you like to get started on this product right now? I know where you're at. I know what it did for me. Let's see what it will do for you. So you got a call to action, even in a 30-second elevator pitch. All right. Or I keep saying pitch, sharing your story within 30 seconds,
Right.
Right. And I know all this. You have been well trained in the real estate world. You understand all this. We're just kind of bringing back all that
It's
training
coming back.
and experience and being able to put it into action now with what you have found with Sealy. Makes sense?
I got it.
Awesome.
It's slowly, things and situations slowly comes back to me, and it takes me back to some of the stuff that I remember and some of the stuff that I lost. Ultimately, it's just going in and trying to put it together. So I understand what you're saying about having those line items, because that helps. And the more I refresh the line items, then you can be creative enough to improvise, so to speak, as you're talking to folks.
Yes.
So that's what I'm looking at now, is finding different ways. I mean, if I can equate it to real estate, it would be something like, if I could show you a way where you can make $250,000 in 6 months, would you be interested in hearing me saying it, tell you?
Absolutely.
Well, when's
Give
a
me
good
the
time to
goods,
sit down and
Gilbert.
talk about that? Pardon me?
I said, give me the goods. Give me the goods.
Right. So it's coming back. When you talk about it, it's like, oh, okay, that's just like when I was doing this, because that memory was gone, but you triggered it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that helps.
Excellent. Let me go back into shared screen here. Hold on a second. Let me pause this. I'm recording. Go ahead. Quick. Go ahead. I love you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Going skiing. Oh, Elka, can you take out my sunglasses in case I leave?
Okay.
They're in the center console and my drink mug. Thanks. Okay. Let me go back into resume recording.
Okay.
All right. So let's see, where were we? Well, let me ask you. Okay, this is her pre-frame, an opening hook for the presentation. So this is kind of like what I was talking about with that open loop. So let me go back to this. No matter how amazing your product service is, there's one skill that we all must master. If we're going to, this is an example of an opening for somebody, right? Who knows what that skill is? Well, let me ask you, blah, 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 blah. And she doesn't tell you what the skill is, right? She kind of leaves the audience hanging. That's an example of an open hook. Here's another example. It's not what I want to get to. I want to get to, I think, this page here. People are inspired to listen when they know why something is important. You've heard the saying, when the why is big enough, you'll find how. A strong why ignites a sense of higher purpose. When you're infused with higher purpose, you become unstoppable. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of the how of your presentation, make sure you're totally in sync on why your message is vital, especially in these times. Why is it important for the audience at an individual level with their families, teams, communities, cultures, collectively in our world to listen and act? What will happen if they do? What will happen if they don't? Paint a picture using illustrious words and body language. Even on Zoom, you can use body language. If you go back and look at how I was doing and sharing my story about the network marketing, you'll see I was using body language in that process. The eye contact is another one. It's important with Zoom. Use words and phrases that guide the listener to see, hear, and feel a worthwhile shared vision accomplished in their own imagination, so they feel the victory. Some people learn more visually, others auditorially, some kinesthetically. They got to like you and they've got to trust you. So that's where the passion is going to come from. You want to share, you want to fluctuate your tonality. One of the things that I had to do in the very beginning, oh my God, I was very monotone. All right. And people, when they're learning something new, they will tend to be very monotone, right? Because it's not natural. They're not speaking in a natural way. But when you get good at this, you'll notice you have super highs and super higher. Oh my God. And you build it up to a crescendo and then you come back down.
Mm-hmm.
Very soft, almost even to a whisper. So you're using the full range of that tonality, the full range of your body language. Sometimes you're super animated and other times you're very calm. So that's really important because it's all part of that communication. And in fact, I just posted under my Sealy guy, I'll probably put it up on the boards under trainings, a Jim Rohn talk on communication. It's very, very, very good. So you want to give them that big why. Why is it essential to us collectively? Why the benefits? Communicate if you're speaking to one. Communicate as if you're speaking to one person. This is huge. All right. When going back to writing a book again, when they told me, or they teach that, yeah, your book may be valid for everybody, but you want to write it as if you're writing it to a specific person with a certain issue. And that's your target audience for that moment when you're writing the book. But then when you start getting into the marketing and the word of mouth starts to spread, it will go on. So you're communicating, you want to be looking people in the eye. Again, if you're in a public area, or you're maybe at a presentation and you've got 20, 30 people in the room, you want to make sure you're making eye contact with each individual person, that you're not just glazing out into space talking. Really important. Passionate conversation like you would a fireside chat with a friend. Imagine, say things like, imagine what will happen if you do or learn this experience. What would this do for you, right? When we get back to our Sealy product. So how do you make this about the swish, right? What could this, look what it did for me. And I had these serious brain injuries. What do you think it could do for you? You're in a much better position than I was when I got started on this product, right? So imagine what will happen. How will that impact your family and business, your future, your life? If you no longer have that frustration, if if you no longer have that health challenge, or the health challenge was diminished, if your pain that keeps you from getting out of bed in the morning, all of a sudden now you started to leap out of bed. So I'm using descriptive words in that. You leaped out of bed. How would that make you feel? What would that look like? Why is that important to you? Would it be worth it? Imagine if everyone had access to this, right? You can use quotes. And this is Simon Sinek did I haven't watched this yet. I need to do it myself. How great leaders inspire action, where he teaches to start with why. So that may be something we can all learn something from. And it's going to go on and on and on. But that's kind of the essence of what I wanted to talk to you about in building your story. So now what you want to do is spend some time doing that. And then let's reconvene either later today. I've got time today because I'm not skiing because I hurt myself, but
right.
So I'll have time later today. I won't be available this weekend. I'm going to be traveling. So but let me know. Okay. Reach out. Not today. We can reconvene on Monday and kind of see where you're at with it. And then
Monday would be good.
And Monday would be good.
Monday would be good.
Okay, let's do the same time. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know my schedule yet on Monday, but I'll let you know.
We'll work it out.
You want to practice this in front of a mirror. You cannot practice this enough. First, just kind of get it down. And then you want to be standing up in front of a mirror and actually practicing this. And you want to check yourself. And the other thing you can do, you can record yourself, right? You can start your own Zoom meeting and record yourself and then go back and look at it over and over again. And you want to see, am I smiling? Smiles are very important in sharing your story because it's building that gap. It's building the trust. Okay. Are you looking at the camera? Are you getting distracted? Are you putting your hand on the heart when you're getting to heartfelt moments? Those kinds of little things now you can start looking at, and you want to practice it over and over and over again until it becomes routine, right?
Okay.
And then it becomes easy. Once the hard work, you do the hard work up front, spend a couple days, 3 days, 4 days getting this down. And then, man, the more you start sharing the story, the easier it becomes and the more impactful it will become because you got it down so well, just like Jeff Brown does.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thank you, Guy.
All right. Well, you have yourself
4 pages.
All right. I love it. Got this. You do write out a bullet statement, of the timeline that you want to craft this story around, and just do it in bullet points first. This happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, and then start seeing how you want to best put it together that's going to fulfill all those points we talked about with the why.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Gilbert.
Thank you.
You have a blessed day.
You do the same, and enjoy the day. I know it's a challenging one, but enjoy it.
Yeah, it's always a great day.
All righty.
All right, Gilbert.
Thank you, sir.
Love you, man.
All right, love you too, bro. Bye-bye.